research topics. If you want to carry out a research, where do you hope to find the research topics? Now, there are several sources. There are several ways or several places we can find research topics. We can find research topic from existing literature. We can find research topic from theories. We can find research topic from everyday problems. We can find research topic from journals. We can find research topic from other studies. There are several places. In fact, like I think I mentioned something like this, that there are more research problems than anybody can finish solving a lifetime. So obviously, we find research problems everywhere. We find research topics everywhere. And one thing is important, we should all bear in mind. Sometimes we go for the spectacular. We think it is how spectacular the topic sounds, or how it's shaking the topic sounds. It is not about that. It is about the thing it brings to the table. What is actually, when you are looking at the topic or when you are looking at the research activity, what is actually the contribution to? So when you are looking at the research topic, one of the things you worry about is what is its contribution to knowledge? What is its contribution to knowledge? By this we look at the social implications, we look at policy implications, we look at research implications. Now, and looking at contributions to knowledge, our attention goes to this three areas. Now, this study we are carrying out, what is the social implication? Social implication here means how does it improve society? How does it improve society? Then policy implication looks at how does it add to better policy making? In other words, policy advocacy. Then the research implication is how does it trigger or create opportunities for that studies, for that research, and so on. What does it add? Body of knowledge. I believe you are seeing my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We can see it.
Okay, so what I was saying is that apart from selecting a topic, it's not just going for the spectacular. It's not just going for a topic that sounds high and loud. Some people think it is the sound of the topic. No, it is not about the size of the dog in a fight. It is about the size of the fight. It's not about how high sounding the topic may seem. It is about the content. What does it bring to the table? What are you trying to bring to the table? Research findings are incremental. Research findings are incremental. I tell people that the society has the knowledge bank. There's what we call knowledge bank. And like every bank, what do you do to banks? There are two things you do in a bank. You deposit, and you withdraw. So when you look at knowledge bank, when we do research, what are we doing? When we do research and make findings, what are we doing? We are depositing into the society's knowledge bank. Every research finding is a deposit into the society's knowledge bank. Then when you are doing a research, you fall back to what's previously done. Sometimes when government wants to make policy, especially in societies, in knowledge-driven societies, when policies are to be formulated, research findings become fallback. People fall back to findings. Economic findings on economic research, industrial, several areas of research. They can provide grounds on which policies are formulated. So by the time societies begin to fall back to research findings, draw conclusions on those bases, they are actually withdrawing from the knowledge bank. So that means the quality of policies that are formulated, or the quality of knowledge consumption in a society is a function of the quality of research such societies encourage or carry out. If you see a society that is, no, somebody rightly said that there are two types of nations. Now, first are nations that are blank. There's a structure, there's a plan, there's a way things are managed. Then the second category will be nations that are not blank, where people just accidentally found themselves together. It becomes an enclave where people stay together, confusing one another, fighting one another. Now, these are the two types of society you may have in the world, or types of nations you may have in the world. So if a society is knowledge-driven, if a society is research-driven, you find out that they keep depositing in the knowledge bank. And then they also make withdrawals from the knowledge bank when the need arises. So obviously, when you're doing research, what should always come to your mind is, what am I bringing to the table? What is the contribution to knowledge? In other words, what is the gap? What is the research? What's the gap? Gap is that hole tends to block, it tends to fill, So what would be the gap of this research in terms of social implication? How does it improve society? What would be the research gap in terms of how does it add to better policy making? Then what would be the gap in terms of research implication? How does it trigger or create opportunities for further research? Or what does it add to existing body of literature? What does it add to existing body of literature? How does it add to existing body of what? Literature. So it's not just enough to select a topic. You have to do a check, a preliminary check on the topic to be sure that when you finish going through the work, there has to be contribution. There has to be gap to fill. The justification for the study is the gap it fills. Any study that doesn't fill a gap is not worth undertaking. You don't undertake a study if it doesn't fill a gap. That's that. Please, any questions thus far? If you have a question, unmute yourself and ask. If you don't have a question, mute yourself. If you have a question, just unmute yourself and you unmute yourself and talk. Please, those of you disturbing us, you're not doing the right thing.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
Yeah, is Louis on the line? Oh, okay. My question is, one, the Institute for Research in Nigeria, because you have rightly said that it's like a knowledge bank. I know some of us, we did research when we did our BSc and all that. Now, the first question is the research bank in Nigeria. I know just one, maybe FIRO. Is there any other research bank? Then the second question is, as MBA students, the kind of research we do, what are those contributions that people like you, academicians, can those research that we carry out on a yearly basis, people are graduating and doing research. What impact is there a way that is being deposited when we do a right thing? For example, we have carried out a research topic that is being supervised by people like you, all right? Is it deposited in that same bank that you have just mentioned? How? The first one is
these are questions. I get to. It looks like an indictment, but then let me answer the question to the best of my knowledge or ability. In the first instance, universities are supposed to be research centers. You don't go far to ask me whether there are other research institutes in Nigeria. Of course, universities have three major functions. One is teaching, then two is there's teaching and learning, that should go together. Then the next one should be research, and then the third one should be community service. So universities should be research centers. In a centered society, people or industries should commission universities, faculties in universities to carry out research. And then that's what we call applied research. research that is industry problem focused. For example, for us in the Center for Distance and E-Learning, we want to do things differently. We want you to research that is industry focused. Pick a research problem from the organization where you work. Like there's what we call graduates and on-the-job training, on-the-job project. We expect you to find or pick a research or an everyday research problem from where you work. And then let's see how we follow the academic process. Follow the academic process to actually, help solve this problem in a manner that it contributes to improvement in work processes. Contributes to improvement in work processes. So ordinarily, there should be synergy between universities, polytechnics, all these are research institutions, and then there should be feeder to the industry. In fact, by providing policy guidelines, they are actually depositing a knowledge bank. The knowledge bank is not a physical bank like First Bank. The knowledge bank is, it looks fluid, but when I do research and make findings and throw it out, it goes into the knowledge bank. No, nobody has absolute control over the knowledge bank. If anybody makes reference to my work or what I have done, it's actually a withdrawal from the knowledge bank. For example, I do know that a couple of my works, at least I have by ResearchGate and Google Scholar Metrics, I have over 50 citations to some of my works. People referring to it is more like a withdrawal from the knowledge bank because it's being applied in policy, it's being applied in industry, it's being applied even in government. That's what is expected. But unfortunately, the sad commentary is that in a country like Nigeria, most of the research work we do, we just do it to fulfill the requirement for the award of the degree. It doesn't have society-wide relevance. And that's why most of these works end up on the shelf of the university library and they don't cross there. Like you rightly write on top of it to fulfill the requirement for the award of BSc in so discipline. It just stops there. It doesn't go beyond that. But real research should be able to add to society, should be able to improve society by adding to processes, adding to policy making, adding to the way of doing things. It's one of the problems we have in a country like Nigeria. There is no synergy between these higher institutions and the society at large, in a manner that the institutions fail in their responsibilities of providing research findings that should guide societal processes. So that is a sad commentary, really. So, but for us, we are trying to look at improving on this process and then doing things that are industry focused.
Now I can understand why you said the question was indicting, because the last time we were in class, after that class on research, I got thinking, all right, that sometimes we are subjected to writing exams to pass and have the certificate. But really, at this level, what is the impact of what we are doing to the society? So I'm just thinking.
Like I said,
yes.
Like I said, you see, there's a difference between an MSc and an MBA. Make no mistakes about it. An MSc is meant to give you specialization to teach. But an MBA is industry focused. In fact, if you look at the courses you're taking, I know when I did an MSc, I just did like 7 courses all through. But look at the array of courses you're taking. If you look at it very closely, you find out that as a holder of an MBA, it's going to make you a generalist, not a specialist. It's going to make you a generalist because you will know a little bit of accounting, marketing, management, banking and finance. Like the first set of courses you are taking are combined courses, and they are designed to ground you. It's only about your fourth semester that I begin to trickle down to your area of specialization and take some, few technical specialized courses. But the idea of an MBA is to give you a master's degree that is industry relevant. So that's what the content looks like. And for us at CDEL, we want to do things differently. It even begins with the kind of research we want you to do. We don't just want you to come and write any paper. We want you to do things that are industrial. So if we also try to look at our curriculum, it's more or less like the way we are discussing research is not the way I was taught research. The question we are having, or that's bothering us, or we are raising, they are provoking some action. Trying to make us broaden the horizon so that we can begin to relate the classroom with the workplace. That is the thing. I think this will form a good issue for discussion on our discussion forum, so that inputs can be harnessed. Hello, do I still have your attention, Mr. Alozie?
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much for taking that question. Thank you.
Okay. Doctor, this is Ibidapo. Can you hear me?
Pertinent question. We're trying to address that. Go ahead. Just talk.
Okay. Not too far from what the first speaker asked. I don't know, like in Nigeria now, is there from the side of the government, is there a body that handles research as related to national problem? It may not be efficient. I'm not asking maybe it's efficient or not, or maybe they are using it at all or not. But is there anything like that at all? Maybe probably something is to become better. Improvement can start from there. Is there anything like that? Maybe you are aware.
I know there's an Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Am I correct?
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
Doctor. Yes, Doctor. Yeah.
At Kuru, Jos.
I also know that it's supposed to be. There are several research institutes in this country. Some are focused on specialized areas. I know there's Roots Crops Research Institute. I also know that there are several other research institutes that are focused in one area or the other. For us in this country, it is not about the existence of these institutions. It's about their having due diligence in terms of pursuing their core mandates. We are too quick to set up institutions that end up having a derailment in their focus, and in their some of them become political compensation for people that headed people to come to power. So what I'm saying is that these institutes, if you look around, they exist, but the challenge is not their existence. The challenge is how far have they gone in achieving the purpose for which they were established. So that's this thing. It's rather a sad commentary, because when you look at universities, when you look at some of the people who graduate today, they have absolute deficiency in research knowledge. While research is something that should provoke critical thinking, and problem solving. Critical thinking and problem solving. So if someone that graduates or is turned out from a university doesn't possess that critical thinking skill and then problem solving skill, I see no difference between him and someone that just left secondary school. It's not about the courses you were taught in class, it's about what you've become, by way of the exposure to the higher level of learning. So that's the sad commentary also is that we run a certificate-driven economy, not a knowledge-based economy. So it is not about what you know, it's about what the papers you are presenting say you are. So, but it's I think that's something we have to deal with. Is our country, and we work hard to make it better.
Doc, I think we're already dealing with them.
Okay, sorry, somebody was saying something. So we're already dealing with them. How? Who was talking? Hello? Yeah, I heard we were already dealing with them.
Yeah, somebody.
Yeah, I heard that.
Moment. Maybe he wants to.
Okay. Good evening, Doc. I was saying that I think we already started dealing with the issues
Okay.
for about 2 weeks now. There've been a lot of agitation to sort out some of these problems. So by the time we end one, I think the other ones will also end. So
Well,
a
for
lot, a lot,
me,
a lot will still be happening. Then another thing I observed that has contributed to this deficiency is the kind of system we have been running thus far, where this, because I know a lot of students over the years, a lot of students have done materials that are very relevant, but the way these materials are presented, we bind them in 4 hard copies and we dump them in the HOD's office. And a lot of times you see the woman selling akara along the road, using them to wrap akara for customers. We never embraced the online system where these materials will be available to anybody from anywhere. And it becomes, when we use the old method, it becomes very difficult for someone to have access to these materials. You don't even know that they exist because you don't know the schools where they were done. But with the recent interest in the online system, I think a lot of things are beginning to change. You can actually go online and look at this. I know a colleague of mine that did a very beautiful research that was published in London Times, sometime last year. And it was a very beautiful work that he did like 10 years ago. They recently published it because he pushed it online. So with the online system, I think this research work, their relevance in our country will really improve. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you. So I think there's something we are doing in UNN here. Every research conducted, if I go online, I can see my PhD thesis is there. Unlike before.
That's right. I've seen it.
Sorry?
So you're correct. I think I stumbled on one of your research.
My PhD thesis is online, and I know I did without sounding like a praise singer. I know I did a good job, which my thesis has been cited over and over again, just as thesis not published, soft copy placed online. No. But I want to encourage us. There's what we call a research repository. There's what we call research repository. Commonly, we have what we call the research gate. I know all of you have University of Nigeria Nsukka email address. You have institutional email address. One of the assignments I will give you is to go and register on ResearchGate. Now, registering on ResearchGate will give you opportunity to interact with researchers from all over the world. You see researches online. You can read people's work. Even when you see the ones that interest you, you can request from the author if it is not open access. So you go there and see what is going on. These are called research repositories. Even the advanced economists, got to realize something about the last input made and discovered that if you put this research output in the information superhighway, they will become more available and more accessible. It will help people have access to them and utilize them. So most times, lack of access can make us, throw away some relevant things that would have been, deployed in a way or the other. We just throw them away. We not make them available for people's use and consumption. So with the information superhighway becoming more open and the existence of certain repositories, commonly the ResearchGate, we even have the Google Scholar. People can easily access published material, access research outputs, and then they are able to deploy them for one industrial purpose, one policy making purpose, or the other. I think the last contribution was quite apt. It was a good one. Okay.
Doc, I think one of the fundamental issue is.
I hope you're taking note of this issue, because you're going to do a piece for me.
We are taking it. I don't know. The fundamental problem is lack of awareness. Of course, the quality of research is also a major problem, and this I think is a systemic problem.
I agree with you. The quality of research is important, because if you don't do something that looks good, it will not attract people. I use my university as a reference point. For example, as members of the faculty, like academic staff of University of Nigeria, Nsukka, you don't publish in anyhow journal. You don't publish anyhow journal. Like in our appraisal, there are things that are not acceptable. You must publish in journals that are indexed in Web of Science or SJ, that's Schimago or Scopus. As a matter of fact, the maximum that is required, they are just about 5 students, and then 3 Thomson Reuters to become a professor. But to publish there now, it's not a piece of cake. These are high-flying journals. And then if you have noticed, for over time, the webometric assessment has been placing University of Nigeria and Nsukka on the lead for a very long time now. It's because of the insistence on this class of journal. So it brings university visibility. It also ensures that only good quality works are published and used. Even some other universities have started going along that line, insisting that their academic staff must publish in these highly rated and indexed journals. So, like what you said, is a systemic problem. I agree with you. A system sets standards, such that only good works are accepted for assessment or appraisal of academic staff. It will go a long way in encouraging people to only do things that are, of a good quality, do works that are of international global standard. So that I agree with you. So if a system promotes merit, encourages industry and hard work over and above mediocrity, you will see people striving for excellence, aspiring for greater accomplishments. I agree with you. I think you're very correct. Any other input?
Okay. Hello, Doctor.
Yes.
Okay, for this research, like for some that may end up in actual production of things, I don't know if maybe this can be part of it or it's a different thing entirely. For example, let's say I'm to research the effect of maybe whatever on an equipment. I'm just talking about on engineering aspect now. And that research will also involve, the evidence we want to see is the production of that substance. Now, there are some issues that to produce it, you may need funding, or some things may require government approval before you can do it.
That's example, like grants.
Yeah, grants.
Grants and patenting and all that.
Patenting, as well as government input. Maybe some may be implicative in case you do it on your own. I don't know if government is not subscribing to that. That may not make such evidence to see the light of day.
Isn't that systemic too? It's systemic. Somebody said to research, which I agree with. Government should have the willpower to engineer research, to encourage research. You know, you make some there are grants that are given, research grants, you know, which encourage people to carry out research. Research can be cost involving. So sometimes if you look at yourself, you have very good research issues you want to address, but then you look at the paucity of fund. So you might sit back, though you have good intentions, good ideas, they die with you because there is no fund to give it a voice. You know, money is an amplifier. So money can amplify your intent, can bring the objective from the realm of being a desire to being to materiality, you know, from a desire to materiality. So these are the issues again. There are also challenges that we face in research. Lack of institutional support. They may not be political will, you know, political will to drive research. Now, sometimes they feel if we invest in research, people don't see. You know, some of our politicians prefer things that shout. They don't want things that are designed for human capital development. They want to build road that they will use to show on television and justify the money they are stealing. You know, so all those things. But when you invest in research and grants, nobody sees it. But it improves society. It makes people. It makes it enlarges the deposit in the society's knowledge bank. But they don't like it. They won't like it because it doesn't shout as loud as a bridge built or a road constructed. Without knowing that when you develop human capital, every other level of development will follow suit. You know, so that is a society problem too. But in better and in saner societies, they invest in research. They invest in science and technology. You know, remember, science and technology, all the physical products we see today, most of them are products of research. So people are locked in somewhere and they are brainstorming, you know, trying to invent things, invent processes, invent products. And then these things are funded. And then grants are given to ensure that they, you know, they advance technology, advance science, advance knowledge. Knowledge-driven societies do better than societies that are just focused on building physical infrastructure. The buildings will become outdated someday, but knowledge never grows old, you know. So that is the thing. I think is also what you said is in agreement with what the last speaker also said. That's a systemic problem. All right. Any other contribution? I think I'm enjoying this.
Hello, Doctor.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I just want to confirm what you have just said now about the research grants. Is there any institute that gave this research grants in Nigeria?
I know TED Fund. You know of TED Fund?
Okay. Because
you've heard of TED Fund?
Yes.
TED
Fund.
These are political grants.
They are poorly managed. The poorly managed funding outfits.
Sorry, Doctor, I've not heard of that. What's
My own
the
opinion.
TED Fund.
TET, that's Tertiary Education Trust Fund.
Yes.
It's just a nomenclature.
Okay, maybe I can assess that.
EM that has become TED Fund, I believe.
Yes, even you go to some universities and tertiary institutions, you see structures built through TED Fund grants. You know,
poorly built structures.
Well, it's better built than not built at all. All right, so I think that's okay. Let's advance. So we have seen, you know, like if we are looking at research, what should guide us is not just any exercise, it's not just an academic exercise. We worry about social. I expect all of us, like I said, get registered on ResearchGate. So now there are some very important things I want to discuss with you tonight also. I was looking at how we judge a research topic, you know, considering a direction as the direction of the study, looking at variables of influence and direction of what influence. I believe you still remember those demonstrations we did in our last class, right? So I like to move it a step further. Let's try to look at research objectives. Research objectives, research questions, and research hypotheses. Okay. Remember, we are still talking about the research cycle. I hope you remember. That's where we are. These are all issues in the research cycle. So, what's a research objective? A research objective is what a researcher intends to accomplish. It is when you operationalize the research problem. Research objective is more like operationalizing the research problem. You introduce an operative word to the research topic or problem. For example, you will say effect of non-performing loan credit creation. Effect of non-performing loan on credit creation. That can be a research topic. That can be a topic, right? Is that a topic?
It is.
Okay, now tell me what is the, give me the variables of interest.
Non-performing loan and credit creation.
Credit creation.
Non-performing loan.
Non-performing loan, credit creation.
And then credit creation. You guys are smart. Then what is the direction of influence? What is the impacting variable?
Non-performing loan.
Non-performing loan is the impacting variable? And what's the impacted variable? Credit creation. Credit creation is the impacted variable. Now, this is just a topic. Now, if I want to make it an objective, right? If I want to make it an objective, I can introduce an operative word, such as, please, if you run out, you relog in, please. If you lost out, relog in. But so I said I can introduce. We're not supposed to be on this platform. I hope you know we're supposed to be on the LMS platform. But I just did this to be able to bring together the pre-MBA class and the MBA class. But they will work that out. They'll sort that out by the next class. Now, to make this an objective, this is just a topic. It's not an objective. I can introduce an operative word, such as to investigate. All right? To investigate, to measure, to find out, to study, to discover. Right? Are you still with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, we're here.
I now bring that to investigate there. I just copied this and put. That has moved from being a topic to becoming an objective. Are we together?
Hello, doctor.
Yes.
With this, this one is modified now to investigate the effect. Is it in any way similar to what you said the other time, that we should not put the that
it has gone off that now. It has gone off that because we are now writing a sentence. The effect of is just there. So introducing the is just to make the sentence right.
Okay, if we say to investigate effect of non-performing loan, is it different from to investigate the effect of non-performing loan?
Now, when you are creating an objective, there should be a certain degree of you need to be a little bit specific, right?
Okay.
You need to be a little bit specific. So I'm looking at the grammatical construction, but don't worry about that in stating the objective. Don't worry about the rule of using article to introduce a topic. It doesn't really apply to stating objective. But this objective we have here can be called the broad objective. It is the broad objective. So when you operationalize the topic by introducing an action word or an active verb, it becomes a broad word objective. But then there's another type of objective, which is what we call the specific objective. What we call the specific word objective. Now we can create specific objective out of this broad objective. We can do that in two ways. One, that non-performing loan is one of the variables of interest. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Then the next variable of interest is what? Credit creation. Now, to create the specific objective, we can uncouple or unbundle either non-performing loan or credit creation. Or we can unbundle two of them. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Now let's assume we want to unbundle credit creation. And using time elements, we can look at short-term credit, medium-term credit, and long-term credit. Are you getting that now? Now, when you say to investigate the effect of non-performing loan on credit creation, it's too broad. It may be difficult to measure because it is bundled up. So to be able to measure this in specific terms and then create research questions and formulate hypotheses, you need to unbundle the variables. You need to unbundle the variables. So let's choose to unbundle credit creation. Now, the specific objective in this circumstance, I'm going to create 3 specific objectives out of this broad objective. So I will copy this and paste it in 3 places.
Last question. Credit creation.
Now, to investigate the effect of non-performing loan on long-term credit creation. Then the second one will be on what? Short-term credit creation. Then I can also look at the medium-term. Medium-term credit creation. Now, what have I done? I have disaggregated this broad objective into how many? Into 3 specific words objectives. So when you are writing the objective of a study, you are expected to do it in 2 ways. 1, you have to state the broad word objective. Then 2, the broad objective needs to be uncoupled into what? Specific objectives. Now, specific objectives are subsets of the word broad objective. While the broad objective is the universal set of the word specific objectives. I don't know whether I'm making sense.
Very well, sir.
Now, do you know that if you're doing a research, you should have as many research questions as the number of specific objectives you have. You should also have as many hypotheses as the number of specific objectives that you have. The reason is simple. Each hypothesis tested and each research question answered will mean research objective achieved. I don't know whether you're following me. Remember, objective is what you want to achieve. And then the objectives create the questions, and the questions create the hypothesis. Does it make sense? So, are you still with me?
Yes.
The question.
Any questions thus far?
The questions. Please raise the hypothesis.
A hand is raised. Whose hand is up?
That is Gabriel. Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Sorry, I'm having a very, very good network tonight, and I don't know because
I can hear you.
hello, Doc.
Yes.
Hello, Doc.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I was just saying I was having a very bad network, and my network went. The application went off again. I don't know. I posted the question on the chat box that is it possible to get the recording for this particular question? Because I've been having it very, very. I can barely make out what you are saying one, and so I just keep logging out almost every other minute.
I guess. I don't know whether support is recording. Is support recording? Do we really have support in this room?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. But sir, because I don't have the hosting rights, I can't record the class.
Or you should have asked me now, or at least I would have recorded.
Hello.
You've not recorded
Yes.
the class.
It's recorded.
Okay,
It's recorded.
okay. My colleague is recording it. Oh, that's great.
All right. So we were saying we need to investigate the effect of non-performing loan on credit creation. That's our broad objective. And then this broad objective is broken down into what? Specific objective.
Specific objective.
The reason is that the broad objective is too broad to be pursued. I don't know whether I get that. It is too holistic to be pursued. So what do? You now break it into parts. If each component part is achieved, you would have summarily achieved the whole broad world objective. I don't know whether you're following me. And I told you the way to break this broad. Okay, now I was saying you break the broad into what? Into specific objectives, like this. Then the specific objectives, like I said, are subsets of the broad word objective. And then they are specific because they have been reduced to measurable, specific objectives are measurable components of the broad word objective. They are measurable components of the broad objective. Does it make sense? Specific objectives are measurable components of the broad objective. And they are important because if you achieve the broad, you would have achieved the word. The sum of the specific, the sum of the achieved specific will be equal to the broad word objective. I don't know whether you're getting the point. Now, make no mistakes about it. I will not ask you in an exam. Ask you, tell me the difference between broad objective and specific objective. I will not ask that kind of question. That will be too elementary for my liking. I would rather ask you, take a topic, identify the variables, create the broad objective, and out of the broad objective, create the specific word objective. These are the kind of questions I can ask you. So these are the kind of questions. I don't know whether I understand what I'm saying. Are you following me?
Yes, we are, sir. Yes, we are, sir.
Please, if I don't have your attention, let me know.
No, you do, Doug. Go on.
Can I hear you, sir?
Okay. So, having said that, we are moving now from specific objective to research questions. I want us to look at research questions. Now, research questions are not WH questions. They are not WH questions. In fact, it is wrong for you to use what, when, how, why in asking research questions. If I ask what, or let me just write, does non-performing loan affect credit creation, or let me say long-term credit creation? Does non-performing loan affect long-term credit creation? Answer this question. Can someone answer the question?
No.
Does non-performing loan
affect long-term credit
creation? Answer the question. Can someone answer the question for me?
Non-performing loan affects long-term credit creation.
Your answer is a yes, right?
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Now, if your answer to this question is a yes, you don't need the
Yes.
You don't need research. You don't need research to answer it.
Yes.
It's a yes.
That disqualifies it as a research word question. Because you don't need to carry out research to answer the question. If the answer can be a yes or no. So I don't know whether I understand what I'm saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, what if I write to what extent? To what extent does non-performing loan affect long-term credit creation? Answer the question. Would you give me a yes or a no?
No.
No, we're not giving us no.
Specific answer, sir.
Yes, to require
You will tell me to a large extent. Then I'll ask you how large is the large extent?
very large.
I don't know whether I get what I'm saying. So we'll begin to grapple with a lot of things, trying to find answer to this word question. So a research question by then, following what I've just demonstrated, I will tell you that a research question is a fluid, indirect, probing question raised in a research that does not elicit a yes or no answer. Can you take this as my operational definition? Yeah? One,
Okay.
the question is
Noted.
fluid. The question is what? Indirect. The question is what? Probing. And then it is raised in a research. And it is not expected to elicit a yes or no what answer.
Yes, sir.
So that means you will need to gather data now. You need to do some data gathering to be able to find answer to the word question. You have to go through a research process to be able to get an answer to the question. Is that okay? So if it doesn't fit into this description, you cannot call it a research word question. So if this is true, let's create, having created 3 specific objectives, let's also create 3 research word questions. And I say by how much does non-performing loan affect short-term credit creation? Then the next one, the third one, to what degree does non-performing loan affect medium-term credit creation? Do I still have your attention?
Yes.
Now, we have tried to create a sync. We have tried to create a sync between what? Between our specific objectives and our what? Research questions. Any question? I think I saw a hand raised.
Doctor, you said
that it is not the hand of God.
Sorry, doctor. What did you say we have created?
We have created research questions out of our 3 specific objectives. Now, what was the idea? The idea is that if I find answer to research question number 1, I would have achieved specific objective number 1. If I find answer to research question 2, I would have achieved specific objective 2. Find answer to research question 3, I would have achieved specific objective 3. So expectedly, you should have as many research questions as the number of objectives you want to pursue. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Then we'll move to the next point. The next point would be the hypothesis. Now, what is a hypothesis? How do you define hypothesis? Yes. Can we have Balogun? Your hand is raised. Yes.
Please, just to be clear, sir, is research question the same thing as a research problem?
No. Rather, research problem raises the research question. You know, the research problem is the motivation for the study. The research problem is what triggered the study. Then research objective is what you want to achieve in solving the problem, right? Then the objective from the broad, you now create the specific. Then you now raise research questions, which are expected to probe and, induce investigation into the objectives. Each objective raises a question. You raise a question that is tied to each objective. You understand? So that when the question is answered, it means the objective has been achieved. And then the cumulative achievement of all the specific objective will mean that you have addressed the broad objective, which is also drawn from the research problem. These things are interconnected. Out of the problem, we create the objective. And the objective we create out of the problem is the broad. Then out of the broad, we create the specific. Out of the specific objectives, we now create the research question. I don't know whether you're following that. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Yes, sorry, Doctor. Can you state the sequence again?
From the problem, objectives are created. Objectives are the things you want to do to address the problem. Then what comes out of the problem will be the broad objective. Out of the broad, you now you uncouple the broad to create the specific objectives. Then out of the specific objective, you now raise research questions. Remember, you should have as many research questions as the number of specific objectives you want to achieve. And I did say that the specific objectives put together form the broad objective. Like the broad objective is the mother set of the specific word objective, while the specific objectives are the subsets of the broad objectives. Are you okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Can I move on now? Let's go to hypothesis. Now, this is not your first time. This is not your first time of hearing the word hypothesis. I don't need a prophet to tell me that. So, what do you call hypothesis? What is hypothesis?
For me, I can say it's like interpreting a
this phone.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello, doctor.
Yes.
I think for me, I can say it's like interpreting a real-time situation.
Says what?
I said it's a form of interpreting a real-time situation, a practical situation.
Interpreting a real-time practical situation. That's hypothesis.
Yeah.
What? I don't know, but I'm not certain you. Do I have a different opinion? Can we have someone say something else?
I think hypothesis is a topic or an assumption that is not supported by proof evidence.
Okay.
Untested statement.
An untested statement.
Prediction of an outcome.
Yeah.
Between a variable and another
presumed outcome of the study.
variable.
The presumed outcome.
Somebody said it is a test to check the validity of an assumption. No, a test to check the validity of an assumption is
It's supposed to propose explanation.
I think it's more of a tentative
now,
guess.
Vivian Okonia, am I pronouncing it very well? Now, Okonia Vivian, a test to check the validity of an assumption is a test of hypothesis. Then that assumption is the hypothesis.
The statement.
The assumption is the hypothesis. Then the process of confirming its validity is called test of hypothesis. There's a difference between a hypothesis and a test of hypothesis. Now, let me write what we can use as an operational definition in this context. A hypothesis is an unproven tentative statement made by a researcher on a topic, on a subject under investigation, which will be subjected to a test following set rules, the decision on which a conclusion may be drawn on the relationship under investigation. Sorry, I'll make it better. On the basis of which decision, on the basis of which conclusion may be drawn concerning the relationship under what investigation. Now let's play with this. Now, one, a hypothesis is an unproven what? One, it's unproven. Two, it is what? Tentative. Hypothesis is tentative because once there's a validation, it ceases to exist. It now moves from the realm of hypothesis to becoming a conclusion. I don't know whether you're following that. So it's an unproven tentative statement made by a researcher on a subject under what? Investigation. And then this statement will be subjected to what? To test. Following what? Set rules. On the basis of which conclusion may be drawn concerning the relationship under what? Investigation. When you conclude the test of hypothesis, it will guide you in drawing conclusion about the relationship under what? Investigation. I don't know whether you're following. All right. So, if we want to formulate hypothesis, okay, now let's just look at a few things. We have null hypothesis, which is what? Null hypothesis is actually based on nullity or is stated in negative form. Mostly, I said stated in negative form, mostly, not all the time. There are some advanced research, especially tests, where null hypothesis can be stated in positive form. For example, if you are carrying out this is what we call Godfrey Lagrange multiplier test. Carrying out that test, the null hypothesis is stated in positive. You're carrying out a heteroscedasticity test, the null hypothesis is stated in positive form. But mostly, there's something, sorry for those who read the Bible, like me, there's something Apostle Paul said. He said, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I acted like a child, I believed childish things. But when I grew up, I had to put away childish belief. So, at certain age, somebody will always tell you null hypothesis is always stated in negative form. Hello.
Okay. Hello, doctor. Is it safe to say? Is it safe to say these are types of hypothesis that you started with null? Because there is no header there, so we can at least follow up on what you're saying.
You can say null, yes, as a type of hypothesis, which is stated in nullity or negative word form.
Sorry, doctor. I seem not to get the flow from that definition then to this null hypothesis.
Can we control the background noise? All right. Now, somebody said he didn't get it from hypothesis. Am I correct? Is that the question?
Yes, I said I don't get the flow. After we finish that definition, this one is this stating types of hypothesis.
We're looking at types.
Okay, so null hypothesis is a type, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have null hypothesis, which is when is stated in null form, is stated nullity, is stated in negative form. And then this is also what the researcher wants to reject. The null hypothesis is what the researcher wants to reject. He wants to reject null. The researcher wants to reject null. All right. Then I said that we have a basic belief that every null hypothesis is stated in negative form. But that is not always true. There are times when null hypothesis is not stated in negative form, but it's just the negative of what the researcher wants. It's just what he wants to reject. That's what the researcher wants to reject. He wants to reject null. The researcher wants to reject null hypothesis. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Are we still here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, with you.
So he wants to reject null. Now, the opposite of null hypothesis is called the alternate hypothesis or research hypothesis. Now, when you write research hypothesis, for example, when you're writing your, like when you're doing your work and then you write where you have a statement of hypothesis, it's a section in chapter 1. You have statement of hypothesis. If you write, let's say 1.1